Ready, Lisa? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May meeting of the Inland Wetland Watercourse Commission meeting. First, does anybody here who wants to speak on anything other than what's on the agenda? You have a question or comment? Forward it to us now. If not, minutes, guys. Everybody go.
Mr. Chairman, we should probably note that
Yeah.
alternate.
Yes, I was going to say that. Yeah, we have two alternates seated today because two of our regular members could not be here. Steve, who's on Zoom, and Jeff. John, excuse me, John, on the end over here. But minutes, guys. Go over minutes.
Yeah, the only thing is, Dave Rogan was either here or absent. He's in twice. I don't think he was absent.
Oh, yes, the last meeting, yes. That's a correction. Anything else? Any other corrections, deletions, additions? If not, can I have a motion to accept the minutes with the correction? Can I have a second? Second?
I'll
Yes.
second.
All in favor? Aye. So you weren't here, right? Yeah. Now, I need a motion to open the public hearing on application 22-02W, proposal by Little House Living LLC to construct residential dwelling units and discharge drainage within the upland review area on lot 10, block 114, that's 1676 Berlin Turnpike. Have a motion to open.
Yeah. Mr. Rogan will make a motion to open the public hearing on application 22-02.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Who's up?
Good evening. Attorney Tim Solo, I have the applicant, Little House Living LLC. Here tonight with us is Pat Snow, principal of Little House Living, sitting right here. And Jim Cassidy, the engineer. I'll let Jim throw some prints up. Do a quick introduction. We did a full presentation at the last hearing. Jim went through all his calculations. It should be, these are revised plans, not revised since the last meeting, but revised since the initial application was filed in January. The revised plans in March. Those revised plans had one less unit, allowed the buildings to be pulled back from the west boundary to 35-foot distance. Hotel structures down that site. There was also a change. You can see now. Previously, where the laser is on the southwest corner, there was a retention basin. Actually, it was a storm tech chamber for stormwater management. That was removed to over here, which a larger storm tech chamber there. Jim will talk about that. He went through all the calculations last time on the drainage. It's an infiltration system as opposed to a cone system. Restate all that stuff. There's no activities in the wetlands proposed. There's 3 dwellings and stormwater management system in the upland review area. Jim will also review that. Jim and I had a phone conversation with the wetlands agent, Jim Horble, earlier this week, and we discussed the drainage, and you can see where the laser goes. That's really it's a glorified drainage ditch that drains all the way from the other side of the Berlin Turnpike down to Lower Lane and Meadow Street, and there are some maintenance issues there, but there was going to be no increase in the groundwater, and once again I'll let Jim talk about that. But we did address that with the wetlands agent since the last meeting and discussed that. Really, it's just a matter of there's only certain rights the town has, and what they do is they clear some areas maintenance-wise. At this point, I'll just turn it over to Jim to review some of his calculations and how the system's supposed to work.
So, for the record, again, my name is Jim Cassidy, professional engineer principal at the firm at Allison Pearson and Cassidy. We're located at 630 Main Street in Crawford. As Attorney Sullivan mentioned, we went over the full application on board for the full presentation again. But at our last presentation, there was a lot of questions that came up about drainage. The especially as it affects Meadowbrook. Basically, it's a large drainage area that comes off the Berlin Turnpike. It's Tim said there's a ditch, drainage ditch that comes off the Berlin Turnpike, water north of the property line. It continues down past Meadow Lake. People to west of us that represented that they had issues with drainage, with backyard, and so on and so forth. What I did since last time is I went through my whole drainage analysis again to make a determination. Is there anything else I can do that can be better? We're charged with making sure when we develop a piece of property that we don't cause any increase in flow post development analysis. So I went back through all my numbers, double checked everything. There's also a question about volumes. Usually we don't get into volumes, but also to look at volumes and what can be done with volumes. I think a couple of important things to know before I get into it is if you take a look at the existing condition survey, this is a copy of the existing condition survey. Areas highlighted in yellow are existing impervious coverage. Total impervious coverage today on that site is 30,000. The hotels are up is 3,640 square feet.
Jim, do you want to hold a second? I just want
I can't hear and I can't see, so that's why I'm over
to.
here.
You just repeat what you just
Okay.
described.
So what I wanted to start with is we went back and we took a look at the existing conditions. This is the existing conditions survey before we started this project. All the areas highlighted in yellow are existing impervious coverage. So again, there was very large curb cuts along the Berlin Turnpike. There was an existing building, a large two-story building in the front, a smaller building up in the front, and then there were hotel units to the back. Total impervious coverage at that time was 33,640 square feet. The buildings have been removed at this point. We have a proposed plan. We're looking at building 19 residential units, 8 of them being in a duplex setup, 3 singles. We're moving a very large amount of the pavement along the front of it, moving it down to a single curb cut, and then a circumference drive with larger lawn areas throughout the site. Proposed, our total impervious coverage is about 34,851 square feet. So you are looking at an increase in overall impervious coverage, which typically happens when you develop. This increase in impervious coverage is very minor. We're looking at about 1,201 square feet, or about 1.4% of the overall property that you're increasing. So obviously, we need to deal with more impervious coverage. Rainfalls, if it's not lawn, if it's not soils, it doesn't only drain to the ground, that increase in impervious coverage does cause additional runoff on the site. That's why we proposed a stormwater management system, as previously stated. That system is a series of catch basins throughout the road that collect all the water from the road construction. In addition to, there's roof leaders that are all tied in to an underground system. That system eventually discharges. So the blue lines are all the catch basins and the underground conduits that collect all the water. All the roof leaders for all the buildings are tied in to the catch basins, eventually discharging to an underground detention filtration system. As stated, the filtration system is called storm tech units, similar to also the galley units for a septic system. So what it allows to happen is some of the groundwater to infiltrate back into the ground. The primary source of the outlet is not filtration. There is a control structure of the outlet that regulates and attenuates the flow back out, eventually discharging to the level spreader and then continue on to the injured wetlands. Based upon the models we built post-development, we have a very slight decrease in heat flow to the water course to the north. I went back and I heard there was concerns about the groundwater. But ultimately, so we've learned over the years that it's not the best thing to do to just detain water. We want to try to promote groundwater recharge. So this is the proposed step. Because you're looking at an increase of about 1,200 square feet of impervious coverage. To give you an idea, that system has a volume of almost 4,000 cubic feet. So it holds back a lot more then the increase of increased coverage, they constantly go on. So the thought was, do a different type of system? Do I go to an enclosed conduit system that doesn't promote groundwater filtration? I would recommend it. I would go with groundwater filtration. When I run through all my hydraulic analysis, I'm figuring we're infiltrating about 1,000 cubic feet of water. The remaining portion gets retained, eventually discharges to the outlet structure. So it's pretty close to modeling what's actually occurring out there today based on existing conditions. So the only thing, again, I would consider changing is changing it to an enclosed conduit system, but I don't think it's achieving what we're trying to do nowadays. We're trying to do something better. We're trying to go groundwater filtration. I think we have this pretty closely modeled to represent what's actually occurring out there today. Importantly to note, we also took a look at the area off to the west. As I represented last time, there's a very large area that actually drains off to the west by the development of this property, the whole roadway, and then all the building areas were all picked up by the drainage system. And taking that away and putting the system on was, again, allowing a portion to be infiltrated into the ground, but ultimately the overall drainage area going off to the west is significantly less. It's either lawn or wooded area. Therefore, the runoff going to the west is significantly less also, which again, we heard issues with drainage going over the top of the slope. We tried to be respectful to that and try to get as much water away from the west to the property line. In addition to on the south side here, there is a drainage swale to the slope. Similarly, there is a drainage area going to it with all the building roof feeders, the drainage system, all goes to our system. It's all controlled on site, and then discharged to water course off to the north. So in looking at the drainage study, this is a copy of the drainage study that was submitted to the town as part of this application review. And we find that, I believe, in my professional opinion, this is the best type of system to use. I would not recommend using the enclosed conduit system. I would not recommend using an open retention basin. I think we want to try to develop some kind of groundwater filtration. On the initial plans, we were looking at 3 separate areas for groundwater filtration. One at this northwesterly corner, one at the southwesterly corner, and then some smaller ones up in the front here. After doing test bits, as I mentioned last time, when we did a test bit at this southwesterly corner, I ran into either a large rock or this concrete structure. It seemed the appropriate area to do it. Soils on this end weren't as good. Similarly up front, the soils weren't as good. This area at the northwest corner consisted of coarse gravel. Sent it out for a permeability test, and it came back at a rate of about 125 feet per day. So it has a very good filtration rate for this type of system. So again, I think this is the optimal placement of the system. This is, in my official opinion, this is the type of system I would use. I would not change anything. At the end of the day, what we're looking for is to conduct a regulated activity for the development of this property. The water course, there's a wetlands line associated with it. The red line represents 50 upland review area from that wetlands. What we're looking for is the development of at least 5 units within the upland review area, in addition to a portion of the filtration system and then for the outlet. Our total activity in the upland review area activity in the upland area is 14,080 square feet, or about 23 acres. It's important to know. It's important to know that the majority of that area that we're developing is already clear. There is an existing wood line along the edge of it, and if you were to go out there, there's a slope that goes down steeply towards the water course. We're not grading past that steep slope. The vegetation will along that property. So there's not a lot of clearing activity, but then scrub and some small stuff that can be cleared. So if we just development of these 5 units in the filtration system would help it. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation. But I'll answer any questions that you may have.
And you've installed this system in town, haven't you?
Not in town, but many other places.
Many other places, yeah.
I'm trying to think if I have one in town here. So the only one I am not responsible for the design of it, but the Acura dealership that was recently built up with our buddy. That's a very large infiltration system. We're responsible for doing a new retail building that was just built north of that. Same thing, it's very large filtration system for it. It's commonly used all over the place. I've done several over the past years. People have been doing these very large distribution facilities up to about 500,000 square feet. We've been using a lot of those filtration systems for that type of development. I do have them in some residential subdivisions also. A lot of times we'll do these for roof leaders, usually discharging. So it's a very common thing that we're doing. It's good for the environment. It helps recharge groundwater. So
You said the subsurface was gravelly,
yeah,
sandy gravelly, 1.5 filtration rate.
yeah, actually, included in the actual sorry, 1.5 inches per hour.
So it's not feet, it's inches per hour.
Inches per hour, sorry.
And
Yes. So we actually undersized the system. It's actually designed for 0.5 safety factor.
what is the depth of groundwater beneath this system?
The depth of groundwater is 5 feet.
5 feet below the base of the system, or 5 feet below the surface?
It's 5 feet below the surface. Initially, we had a 4-foot deep system. We went back and revised it to a 24-inch deep system, so we have 3 feet. So
Separation. What is the fate of groundwater, infiltrated groundwater?
So
Fate of infiltrated groundwater, the infiltrated surface water that to the groundwater, what is the fate of it?
the fate of it.
Yeah, in other words, what is the gradient, what direction is it flowing, and where does it discharge?
It drains back towards the river.
So it's like a retention basin then.
Correct.
It's gonna, subsurface seepage is gonna,
Eventually goes to the water.
it's gonna discharge to the swell. So it's actually
It's filtering it out, right?
filtering it
Correct.
and then releasing it back into the swell.
And we're going to that. Correct.
What type of treatment do you use?
Each one of the catch basins, of course, is put an Aztec filter in. And then on the system itself, the entry will have an isolator route.
Sorry,
An isolator route, the entry, the first row of the system will be an isolator route. So what happens is that first whole row of chambers is wrapped with stone and fabric. So like I said, it's going to down in there. There'll be a lot of trap before it's allowed to drain into the main roads.
so that's a maintenance issue.
Yeah, so typical maintenance is it has 2 inspection ports on the end. It'll get monitored in the beginning about twice a year. From there, we come up with an overall schedule. Nowadays, because we're not using sand and salt for snow and ice, we typically do not see a lot of sediment in there. The only thing we typically see in this application is not commercial, is we see floatables, cups, that type of item. What will happen is if for some reason there are the maintenance of this is if there is debris in there, again, in residential, you typically don't see it. What will happen is you bring the back truck on one side, and Storm Tech actually has a special, almost looks like a small robot that goes down in there with a high pressure jet. And what they do is they spray it and they push the debris to the other end of the back truck and suck it out. Between the ab filters, the catch basin sumps, and the isolator room, this being a problem. The system.
Would be responsible for it.
These aren't units for sale. These are SOB by systems responsible.
I know one of the questions last meeting, is more or less water to be discharged over a period of time into that swell? I know that was what people were worried about, there was just going to be a rush of water.
Again, I went back through the miles, and what it would be, the difference that I'm finding is about 1,000. That's actually infiltrating back into the lake of those. Again, just you gotta think of it this way, if you have a 2-acre piece of property that's all along the rains today, not all that water's running off.
Right.
Okay, this is not commercial site, this has to be, so there is a portion of it. If I change the surface condition, I'm not changing the amount of water that's on the ground, I'm changing the amount of water that runs off. So I need to do something with that water. We can either hold it back, not let it drain to the ground, and just let it discharge over time. That's not the right thing to do. We've learned over the past, I've been doing 35 years, that we're better off, promoting groundwater recharge. So that's why, again, I think this is the best scenario, best system to use for this application. To get some of that water to drink back into the ground.
Jim, that'll be a better quality groundwater because of the filtration.
Yeah, so it helps that between the catch basements and the isolator road. What we always try to do is we try to treat the first flush runoff, first inch runoff, which is called the first flush. First inch is what typically carries you go a couple weeks without a rainstorm and something falls on the ground. You have a little rainstorm. Obviously, a little rainstorm is something, some substance washing off the system. That's what we want to treat. It's not. You're not trying to treat the big storms. You're not trying to treat the 100-year storm. You're trying to contain control of the 100-year storm so it doesn't go and command those problems upstream. And that's what we did.
So that retains 4,000 cubic feet of runoff that you. What precipitation event does that represent?
Well, so it's bigger. So again, the difference in impervious coverage is 1,200 square feet between what is out there and something. So simple math, you take 4,000 divided by 1,200. You're talking about 3.6 feet water. So we know that in this area, a 100-year storm event's probably about 9 to 10 inches. So it handles a lot more. The reason it's bigger is because we're also helping the drainage to the west, we're helping the drainage to the south. We're being people force that drainage and controlling that also. That's where the extra capacity in the system is.
So you're collecting water from the entire area of the property and you're
using for the buildings, all the building footprints, the whole road configuration, all the driveway is all collected in the system.
So all the precipitation that falls over the entire property is being collected and conveyed to that northwestern corner of the property.
Everything within the footprints of the buildings to the center. This perimeter is 35 feet along this westerly edge. It's still discharged as less than that. But it's a lot less area, a lot less rate.
So historically, or currently, the site drains.
It drains in 3 directions. There's a large portion that's draining to the north to this water course. There's another thin portion down the center that's draining towards the west. But then there's a smaller portion, it's up here to see here. So the drainage swale is running down, cuts across this corner of the property. So it's like we out that portion too.
Now, I'm assuming by the construction, you're gonna have all that silt fence or hay bales.
It's all surrounded with silt fence backed up with it. It's the entire proximity.
Anybody else have any questions?
Just wondering about the non-permeable surfaces like asphalt and stuff like that. Consider changing it to a permeable kind of pavement.
So the only one area I can see doing any permeable pavers is down in this lower corner because of course we're seeing the grounds. But honestly, this whole area up here, this back corner, is what I call the weatherstill type soil. It's got see, so it doesn't have a lot of infiltration. But there's not a lot of addition to permeable pavers in that area. I can talk to the developer about it and see switch back on something. This whole site out to be pretty close to what's out there today. We had about 1,200 square feet increase.
So you're also telling us that the flow rate's not gonna increase in the little stream because it's
Again,
gonna be the same as it ever was for the neighbors?
It's actually a little less. I mean, again, you got putting down the Berlin Turnpike, there's 42 inches. Audit development comes down to this one close. It's not, I can't do it in those acres. I can't do it in what's happening. I can do something about what's on the site. I've already it's not a lot to do. Our rate in comparison to the overall is strong. So we took a look at mentioned drainage issues downstream, water course, a lot of maintenance issues. There is a portion being thrown the metal lane, Jim, where the town will go and do some maintenance, but ultimately we're going to some things backyards. It's got to be made. You don't want clippings in it, you don't brush in it, it's going to affect their property, the upstream property, so it's water course, it needs to be respected.
And from what I understand, you guys can go clear town second up, but you don't have the right of way to clear.
We don't have an easement through the entire structure.
So that's
Begins probably a couple hundred feet east of Lower Lane.
Yeah.
It's into an actual system.
yeah, but
And our highway department goes in probably every couple of years. And they'll clean out the brush and debris that accumulates at the entrance of the hydrant system.
But as far as behind personal property, there's nothing.
We don't have this.
Anybody else have anything? Jim, do you have anything for? Now I'm opening up to any citizens here. If you have a question or comment for the engineer or for the attorney, state your name and where you live and ask your question.
We got something to read. Linda Hallstrom, 48 Holly Court. And I was not at the last meeting, but somebody read my statement. At the April Inland Wetlands Commission meeting, I asked for the following in my statement regarding 1676 Turnpike. Why was there only one test hole dug for the StormTech DC 670 infiltration system where it located? The rule of thumb for the number of holes to be dug in an area is 3. One that can be tossed in case the results don't work, and 2 that will probably have roughly the same findings. The result of the one test hole bored in this area on the property shows an infiltration/exfiltration rate of 0.3 inches per hour, which is very low. The rate is more likely 1.5 inches per hour. How much stormwater is really coming down to this corner now? What's going to happen when this project is built and the stormwater runoff will be so much greater due to the impervious surfaces that will be constructed? There are not enough samples to make a proper evaluation on the soil's ability to absorb or transfer the water from the infiltration chambers back into the soil. We request at least 2 more test holes to be dug where the system is to be installed. This is common sense. On the north side of 1676 Berlin Turnpike, the topography drops from 133 feet to 122 feet at the boundary with 51 Holly, for a total of 11 feet. The wetlands and the stream culvert are next to this property, yet there seems to be a little concern for this 11-foot drop. The potential for major flooding is huge from stormwater runoff from the houses on the north side of Holly and from the wetlands. We worry about the stormwater runoff overflowing the infiltration chambers from this high-density housing project with its roofs, driveways, and road. Again, if the buildings were pushed back to the legal BT1 zone setback requirements of 50 feet from the Holly Court boundary and 25 feet for the side yards, there would be more room for storm runoff. We are inundated at times with many days of heavy rains and superstorms. Consequently, these infiltration chambers will always be filled up with stormwater runoff. They are designed to release water vertically and horizontally. All this recharged water coming out of the chambers and stormwater runoff not captured by the infiltration system could be barreling down both above and underground, adding to the saturated soil and flooding the north side houses with catastrophic results. What if the hill erodes and mud and rocks slam into the house at 51 Holly? The infiltration/exfiltration system will be located only 18 feet and 15 feet away from both boundaries. It is too close to the boundary lines and the wetlands and needs to be moved back. Otherwise, if the developer and the town, is the developer and the town going to guarantee in writing that stormwater runoff will not flood our lower levels of yards? Again, we invite you to walk our properties for a first-hand look at our concerns. We implore you to scrutinize this application and make changes so we are not sitting ducks. And I ask that this be added to the minutes.
I'll turn over to Jim to, but all of these catastrophic results that are really unsupported and predicted have been completely refuted by the engineer. There's been nothing that supports any of these supposed catastrophic results. We're actually discharging better quality water. As for guaranteeing no flooding, well, there was plenty of testimony last time that flooding exists today. So I guess they want to take that away. If flooding today, there's going to be flooding afterwards. It's going to be less, actually, as Jim described.
So, first of all, about soil testing. Actually, 4 test pits done on the site. There was one dug in the system itself. There was one dug in the west corner. There was 2 dug in the other corner. If you remember the initial design, again, we had 2 smaller systems up front, one in this back corner. Based upon the soil types we decided that's not the best to report. This was the best to report. Was one test pit enough? The system itself is about 40 feet long by 50 feet wide, about 2,500 square feet, 2,000 square feet altogether. The state of Connecticut, 2004 Stormwater Quality recommends that we do one test pit for every 5,000 square feet of infiltration area. Again, this is about 2,400 square feet, so it's half of that. There was reference that was made that the infiltration rate that we came up with was, I believe, said it was 0.3 inches per hour. That's not correct. The soil sample that we took out of this area was 1.5. We designed using a factor or a rate of 1.5, so about 1/3 for safety reasons, just in case you have some inconsistency in the soil. This permeability rate here that we did on this soil, it was good. That was 1.03. That was a real slow permeability rate. So we didn't use this soil. To give you an idea, I show a dot for the test pit that we did. But by the time I opened a test pit, if I opened 3 in that area, I basically dig up the entire area to try to get 3 test pits in to serve that entire area. Where I'm comfortable with what I have for soils in the area. That is a safety factor to it, just in case there is any variations. Again, using 1/3 with infiltration. It was also mentioned we didn't take any consideration for water or any drainage going down that steep slope. I agree. If you take a look at this edge, this is the top edge, it's about elevation 134 up here. It goes down to 117. It is about a 3-to-1 slope going down. As I previously mentioned, we did take that into consideration. You take a look at the site, there's a very large area that's running off the pavement over the slope down. Presently, for that drainage area, we estimated about 3/4 of an acre, 0.75 acres going over down that slope. With the drainage system, again, all the buildings, the road system is all picked up and put into the infiltration system. Post-development, that drainage area is down to about 0.28. So it's almost 1/3 of what was there. And more importantly, it's a type of surface that's draining down. It used to be buildings. It used to be impervious surface paved areas. All that will be remaining is the rear yard, houses, and then also the trees. So we did take that into consideration, just like we did on the South Lake property. As I mentioned, there was area draining into that. That was about 1/4 acre, 0.23 acres that was draining to that drainage field. As we analyzed it at this basically on the South Lake property line. Post-development, we're about 0.81. So therefore, again, it's a reduction. There was some impervious surface roof areas that were draining down to that. All of it will be now this area, or should, or the drainage should remains. So therefore, on both the south and on the west, looking at a decrease, we did take into consideration, we think that this is a reasonable use of the property. Again, if you take a look at what was out there previously for impervious coverage compared to what we're proposing now, we're not asking for a significant decrease. I think we've done a good job of trying to control it. Did a good job trying to recently what's happening out there today. I think all the safety factors are built in. Again, my professional opinion, reviewing the appropriate drainage design criteria.
Hang up with Lisa, you have a question?
Well, Sonia has her hand up to
Soft,
speak.
there's no way on the screen, we can't see anything.
There's nobody on the
Yeah, there's nothing on the screen.
Oh,
Hi, can you see me?
go ahead and,
Is
Hi.
anybody else in?
I got a question for you. You had mentioned that tank,
Please state your name and your address.
John Sizadowski, you own Berlin Auto Center, right in the corner. You had mentioned the tank, it was a 50 by 50 by 2 feet?
Correct.
Right, that comes out like 37,000 gallons?
That's about 4,000 cubic feet.
Okay, so 37,000 gallons approximately. You do the math, I did the math. And it's like four, if you guys want to equate it to how big that is, so if you take those tankers that show up at Sitco, those are 9,000 gallons apiece, times 4. That's how many gallons of water are going to be in that tank at any given time. When it rains, storm, is going to be holding back, correct? And you have, and it's all going to drain down into their backyards, I'm assuming.
That's where it goes today.
Right.
We're putting
Is
it
there,
back.
and you had mentioned, I asked you if there's any options last time, you kind of snapped back and you said no. Jim, where are the closest storm drains? Meadow Lane?
Probably Meadow Lane, actually lower than the drainage system, and or in Holly Court itself.
Because
Holly Court probably has the closest one.
on our property, we have 4 storm drains for lower storage units, and they go right to Meadow Lane, and they go down into the stream that goes down to the brook. Yeah. Is that an option? Instead of dumping it into their property?
But again, we're trying to re-simulate what's going on out there today. The majority of the water goes to the water course. So that's what we tried to recreate.
Okay, that's not what I'm asking though. Is there any options for that to be just converted to?
Across private property.
We have, well, you got an easement going down, right? Into Holly Court?
It's
Isn't there?
for, I think that
For
is
sanitary
water,
Sanitary sewer.
city water, city sewage, yeah, for storm.
It's limited just to sanitary sewer.
And then there's no way to do that for a storm drain, so
There's nothing that exists present. We have to, the developer would have to acquire private rights from the property owners.
okay. And no state permits are required for something like that, dumping into,
Not when I'm tying into a state facility. If I'm tying into the Berlin Turnpike, I need a permit. I can't tie into the Berlin Turnpike, unfortunately.
why not?
It's so much higher. I can't make water.
Can you pump?
Great one, very nice.
Okay.
I can't pump. Do it this way. If you have a design for it, it's a major storm. Usually in major storms, you have other issues, power outages, so on and so forth. So I can pump it back up. I've been doing it 35 years. I've never seen it.
Okay, so you just want, okay, so you just want to dump it down
Where
there.
Where it goes now.
it goes now.
Aren't you?
But you're collecting more of it
Right.
into that.
No.
Anyway,
So
But you're controlling the rate of
controlling
runoff,
the
so
rate.
it is not.
we're controlling the volume again. Earlier in the presentation, when I said, so I went back and looked at the drainage system. As we developed drainage systems over the years, the one way we always used to do it is just retain it or detain it and then discharge it, not promote groundwater infiltration. It's not the best thing for the environment. I can convert the system to an enclosed conduit system, but it's not gonna have groundwater infiltration. So with that, like you said last time, all I'm doing is holding back the water releasing over a longer period of time. By having an open system where it allows groundwater infiltration, I'm re-simulating what's actually occurring out there today. If you have a piece of property, okay, and it's mostly grass, and you get 6 inches of rain, a portion of it is going to infiltrate into the ground today. When you pave it, there's an increase. Obviously, it changes to the increase. You want to hold that back. By doing groundwater infiltration, you're re-simulating what's going on today. You have big water infiltrating because of the impervious.
how far down is the clay?
The clay.
Yeah.
We had tested about 7 feet down in the area of the basin. The bottom of my system is about 3 feet below grade.
Okay,
and groundwater at 5 feet.
so it lays down 7 feet, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
In this area,
Mhm.
yeah, over here, it was higher. That's why we got rid of all the infiltration systems. Wouldn't work there.
Anybody else have any other comments?
Sonia wanted to talk online.
Sonia, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
State your name and your address, please.
I'm Sonia Uzioli, 17 Holly Court. I just have a quick question. Sorry to take your time. Piggybacking off of what Linda requested, that we request that it be in writing that you won't flood our yards. Attorney Tim Sullivan stated that it would actually help and be less. Can we get that in writing, that it will be less flooding in our yards? And if it is not, can we hold them responsible for any damages to our yard shrubs in the back that my neighbor has spent thousands of dollars on to replace? Could that be something that they could put in writing, since he said on a recorded meeting that it would actually be less flooding and benefit our backyards?
What we're representing is what the engineering shows, and what Jim has represented to this commission, that system will work. And it's better than what exists today because of the stormwater management system. So we're actually doing an improvement to the stormwater system that doesn't exist today.
Okay, but if it's not.
And I'm not an attorney, but I don't believe the town would ever give any type of legal document saying that it's not gonna flood.
I'm not asking.
Like it was represented last week.
But I am asking that you said on a recorded statement that it is going to benefit us and be less flooding. So I am just requesting that you put that in writing. So if there is more flooding and damage to our backyard, that you guys be held responsible to fix it and or repair any damages or replace any debris or shrubs that my neighbors spent thousands of dollars to put in to help soak up the flooding in the backyard. That's all I'm requesting. I'm not asking you to say there's going to be no flooding. I am just requesting you put in writing what you have said on the recorded statement, that you are going to benefit our backyard. So if it doesn't, we can hold someone responsible.
So again, as part of the application, we submitted a drainage study. It's got all the numbers. It shows you the pre and post. Okay. You know, I'm showing a decrease. The problem with saying that there's not going to be any damage to their backyards. Some people got last month and already represented they have problems with drainage in their backyards. So I'm not going to guarantee that they're not going to have problems when they already identified that there's problems. As I stated previously, one of the things that needs to occur is you have a water course behind your house. It needs to be respected. It needs to be maintained. What I see a lot of times is that people mow the yards, they dump clippings in it, they put the brush in it, it plugs it up. It needs to be maintained, respected, so it can continue to flow. But when you're already telling me you have a drainage issue with the backyard, I'm not going to guarantee that something that's already occurring is not going to continue to occur. All I can tell you is I've submitted a drainage report. It's stamped. It's got my signature on it. This is what I'm representing that I'm coming up with flows. Are you going to see a significant change? No. You have 42 acres from the Berlin Turnpike that's draining down through that water course. Our drainage area is about 1.5. You're talking a very small percentage. As I mentioned, our discharge is a very minuscule amount in the overall picture that's going into that water course. Again, it was represented that there's drainage issues with it. It needs to be respected. It needs to be maintained. I was talking to the town. They're doing what they can do where they have the right to do it. But believe me, I've got water courses on my property. I know what I need to do, the maintenance I need to do. I have a 500-foot dam on my property that I deal with DEP all the time. So I know dealing with maintenance of ponds and drainage fields and all that kind of stuff. And it's something I take very seriously and keep up.
And it doesn't even have to be grass clippings. You have a major drainage in the Berlin Turnpike, 42 acres as Jim stated. And with home ownership comes responsibilities and obligations. And there's a degree of responsibility of maintaining the back of your property where there's water course. Sediment comes through the Berlin Turnpike. It's going to gather over time. You got to maintain it. It's not the town's responsibility. You don't have an easement there. So there are areas that the homeowners have to respect the water course, as Jim said. And water will flow better because of that.
Patty Burgio has her hand up.
Hi, Patty Burgio, 27 Holly Court. I kind of had a hard time hearing what you guys were saying, so I apologize if any of this has already been addressed. Before I read what I had already written, I thought that what I heard was that someone said that they come out and clean that easement every couple of years. I've been a resident of Holly Court for 20 years. They've come out once. And with all due respect, we do respect and maintain. Along that line, I'd like to thank Mr. Biella for stopping by on Holly Court and taking the opportunity to walk our property. I am, however, curious how come nobody else from this board took advantage of our invitation to stop by and see after a rainstorm what it looks like, as Mr. Biella did. One would think that a project of this caliber would warrant a visit, especially when you have so many neighbors of Holly Court, Peter Parley, and the surrounding area coming to the meetings to raise concerns and voice our fears. How will you, with a clear conscience, vote on something of this caliber without having seen the area? Why haven't you given us the same time and courtesy to the homeowners of Holly Court as you had for Mr. Snow and his team? During the last meeting, the committee went into a 15-minute recess to accommodate the late arrival of Mr. Snow and his team. We often wonder if the same would have been accommodated to the audience of citizens. We are very concerned about a catastrophic event causing the drainage infiltration system to fail. We, the homeowners, are not being heard. Again, we ask, will the town of Berlin and the builder provide us with at least somewhat of a guarantee to ensure that if this chamber fails, somebody will come to our aid and take care of the damages done to our property and our homes? So at the last meeting, we're following Attorney Sullivan's lecture on how the neighbors of Holly Court needed to conduct themselves. He made a comment that we bought something in a flooding situation. I want to be clear, we don't live in a flood zone and we'd like to keep it that way. We have water during eventful rainstorms and we're asking that no more water be added to what is already occurring. We aren't flagged as a flood zone. Our mortgage company would have required us to have flood insurance, and a simple glance at the FEMA map would have easily shown that. And the something that Mr. Sullivan is referring to is our home. It's not just something. It's our blood, sweat, and tears. So it's not something. Again, we invite the board to come to our home, walk the property, either before a rainstorm, after a rainstorm, whenever you want, before you vote. Do it with a clean conscience. Hear our concerns. We have raised our children in this town. We pay our taxes. We take pride in our yards and our homes. We should matter. My husband is out there at any given time cleaning out that covert. He does not leave it a mess. My neighbors don't leave it a mess. Mr. Biella came and looked at it. I would hope that he would speak to that and tell you what he saw. Thank you.
I don't know, I mean, she's right to a certain point of that the culvert has to be cleaned up, but if we can't, we can only do so much. Anybody else have anything for the?
Sherry Rice, 38 Holly Court. I just wanted, the engineer had mentioned that the project is nothing more than what was there previously with the motels, but there was really, I mean, there was 2 buildings and then there, I believe there was 8. This is much more significant buildings than what were there previously. There was a lot of open space, more of that land is being developed. There is a whole area next to the stream that had not been developed that was just, grass and so forth. So there is more, so I can't conceptually understand how that can be said. But also I wanted to, just maybe speak for my neighbors in that the implication that they don't care for their homes and they're not properly maintaining that stream. I've lived in that area. These guys have been there all their lives, since the properties have been there, and can't remember how often that people have come out to clean that. We're not throwing things into that. They know the impact of mistreating that stream and what it can do. So I take exception for them that the implication was made that they don't maintain their properties. It's not, it is the towns, and part I'm understanding is the states. So it's not that they even have know what they need to do to make that run better or what have you. I mean, that's what town's supposed to be doing, or the state is gonna be doing in that spot. And they can't remember the last time somebody was out there to clean that up. And they live with a big portion of that. So I just
Jim,
wanted to put
do you
those
know which
out.
area the town can get to behind Holly Court? Can they get to any behind Holly Court?
We essentially have to gain permission from a number of the property owners to get through.
So you don't have an easement.
We don't have any direct easement from Holly Court itself.
Is it just Holly Court or is there stuff down further in Meadow Lane?
We've gone in a number of times from gained access with the permission of property owners on Holly Court.
Very well.
Does the DOT have an easement to gain access?
I believe they have
They have a drainage easement on the properties to the north. That's it. And then past their property and stops. So they have a right to drain to that point. They don't have the easement over the entire thing. And let me just clarify, I'm not implementing any specific person saying that no one's taking care of it.
It wasn't you, sir.
Was it? Again, I'm just saying that, myself being employed in several water courses, ponds, dams, you do need to maintain them. If you see a neighbor dumping it, that's one of the things that's going to help. That's one of the things that will help any flow issues that you have in that water course.
Yeah, and there's no implication that nobody's maintaining it. The implication is that they have to maintain it. They may be out there maintaining it. I believe they are. But do they have the resources to maintain it, say like the DOT or the town, have the equipment to maintain, to get rid of the water flow? It's a difficult situation for the homeowners over there, but we're not making it any worse. We're actually improving it according to the engineer. All of the numbers support that there's going to be less volume and it's going to be over a greater period of time coming off of this site.
The other comment about this development looks like it's a lot more intense. It's a lot more impervious coverage is what I was taking out of it. What was out there prior was very condensed. You had very large paved area along the entire frontage. You had very large roadways and parking areas around the perimeter of the site. We went through the calculations. We determined what that impervious coverage was. What happens when we're developing it, we're trying to spread it out, create more green areas between buildings, more green areas in front of buildings. So yes, it looks like the overall development is a bigger area, but the actual fact is the impervious coverage is only 1,200 square feet. Again, we're talking 1.4% increase in the entire property. It's a very minor increase in impervious coverage. And I think I've over-designed the system to compensate for that increase.
A lot of that old asphalt was broken out, so there was ways for water to get in and go underneath. There was an old diner on the right side, and then there was another two-story building out on front. And then there were 8 little efficiency units that were probably 200 square feet each. And they were, I'm gonna say, 25, 30 feet apart from each other. What this project now is, these things that are 28 and a half feet tall, and they're gonna be 10 feet, in most cases, back where we are, 10 feet away from each other. And so you've got all this extra, the roofs and the driveways, and there's still gonna be a big asphalt road going through there. And the concern is, we're not talking about Mickey Mouse little storms. We're talking about these huge events that put people under in general in other areas. The state, all the time we're hearing about flood warnings for different areas. And that's our concern here, is when you've got these 25-year storms or these 100-year storms. There's no question that a normal storm could probably be handled. But my understanding is these chambers fill up. And when they're full, there's always gonna be tons of water. And when the water's gonna shoot out the top and go this way, and it's gonna go horizontally. So where's it gonna go?
Let me, this other thing I want to correct. This system doesn't entirely rely on infiltration. It has an outlet. There is this pipe that runs into it that conveys all the water from the roof leaders, the driveways, the parking, the drive areas. Once the water gets in there, it will allow it to build up. There's a pipe on the opposite side. So this is the inlet pipe here. This is the system that holds the water. There's another pipe out of it. It goes into a manhole. In this manhole is what we call a weir structure. There's a plate in it with a slot. And what happens is the water builds up on that slot, it regulates the amount of flow out. So this system cannot hold water forever. It's either some of it's going to infiltrate into the ground, but the majority of it's going to discharge through our outlet, just like it does today. It's going to continue to have water course, just like it does today. So it's not just an infiltration system. It does have a positive outlet too. So it's not going to, if you had a rainstorm of 6 inches today, and another rainstorm tomorrow, by the time the next rainstorm comes, it's drained. There's no more water.
But if we have a superstorm,
It's designed for up to a 100-year storm event. That's what the criteria we're required to design. We're required to make sure we have no increases in flow towards the 100-year storm event. I can pull up the actual number for this area. I believe in Berlin it's probably around 9. Based upon the latest NOAA charts, it's probably about 9 inches in a 24-hour period. We had a big storm last year. I'm not exactly sure what we did that in this area. I live out in Litchfield County. I know we had about 6 inches. That's probably a little under a 25-year event. So it's designed for significant.
Anybody have anything else? Any other comments or questions for the attorney or the engineer? Anybody on Zoom? Nothing? Jim, you have any? Guys, any other questions or comments?
Jim, you just say you're making it better than it is existing.
Again, I submit a report with my stamps. Again, there's a significant amount of water that comes down with that water course. There's 42 plus acres coming down to that water course. I can't control the 42 acres. As people identified last month, they've already got pre-existing drainage conditions. All I can do is control what's coming off our site. Based upon all the methods they built, I have a slight increase in flow going to that water course. I can't control the 42 acres. I can control the 1.9 overall property area that we have on our site. I can control the flow that's going down to the westerly property line. As I stated, I cut that area in a third. I can control the flow that's going to the southerly property line. That area is cut almost in half. And I'm putting it into our system and taking care of it there. So I believe I've done everything I can within reasonable engineering practices.
And you're confident to design it. This is probably the best thing that's out there.
Again, the only other option is to go with a closed conduit system to not allow any infiltration. I don't think it's the right thing.
Right.
As was mentioned previously, all you're doing is holding them back. You have more volume. You're not getting that infiltration value. You're just discharging it over a longer time. We've learned I've been doing it for 35 years. I've learned over that time. We've done a lot to improve stormwater quality. With respect to wetlands, one of the things we do is try to promote groundwater infiltration where we can.
Jim, that is something that the state DEP has been promoting.
Yeah, because it's 2004 stormwater quality. It's what the items that's spelled out.
Does the owner have anything that he wants to add to this, or?
Did your intentions are?
No, my intentions are this is a 20 unit or 19 unit rental apartment. We plan on being here. I'm local. I've done other projects in town before. We'll maintain it to the best of our abilities, and I think the stuff we've done before with neighbors, we're always have compliments after we're finished. Appreciate your help, and other neighbors have some concerns with everything we can do to address them. As the engineer said, we're improving what's there now to what's going to happen. Thank you.
Anything else you want to say, Tim? Or?
We've been batting this around for a couple of meetings now. We're gonna say you close the hearing, but we didn't really hear anything new today. Just a second forum, and we're welcome to do that. We think it's appropriate now. We'd like to have a hearing closed and to vote if possible.
And nobody else, anything else to add or any questions or comments? I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Hold on. Irene James, 51 Howard Court. I agree with Linda. I live at 51, and I do get a lot of water. The city did come out and clean the drains once or twice. It's so wet back there, they got stuck. That's how wet it is back there in that back, especially in the morning. They did clean it out once, but it's a mess now. It's a mess with all the trees and stuff, everything falling down. But I agree with what Linda said. It's too many, we get a lot of water. And I didn't just move here, I've been there.
Anybody else, guys? If not, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on application 22-02W.
Make the motion to close the public hearing.
Can I have a second? Can I have a second? All in favor? Now, you have to vote either to accept or to deny the application. Have a motion one way or the other.
I can't see how you can deny it because
Well, you have to make a motion.
I make a motion to accept the application as presented.
Have a second. All in favor? Show of hands, please. Against?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to make a motion to open a public hearing for application 22-04WF. Proposal by Shuttle Meadow Development LLC to construct a 19-unit multifamily housing project associated with a regulated area on lot 46, block 151 at 309 Main Street, East Berlin. For the applicant.
Good evening, Commissioner. For the record, my name is David Carson. I'm one of the principals of the LPC Group representing the applicant. The project before you this evening is for a multifamily development on a 6.81 acre parcel located on the easterly side of Main Street in East Berlin, approximately 150 feet from the intersection of 172. Property runs from Main Street to the Mattabesset River. The property is presently improved with an existing two-family house. The westerly, except for the area immediately around the house, the westerly half of the property is sparsely wooded, upland area with mature deciduous trees along both sidelines. The eastern half of the property falls off significantly and is encompassed primarily by floodplain area for the Mattabesset River. What is proposed, as I said, is 19 units. Two-family house plus 17 additional units located in 5 buildings in the upland area. All of the units, just by way of an overview, all of the units will have their own garage, their own assigned parking space, individual patio areas, and a large common open space area with a gazebo and a split rail fence. Both of this area located in the upland area before the property slopes down to the left. The property will be served by public water, sanitary sewer, gas. The complete set of plans have been submitted and reviewed by various departments in town, engineering, fire marshal, water control board, conservation commission, traffic, fire. We have addressed all of the comments. Any revisions that were necessary have been incorporated into the plans. With regard to the area of more significance to this commission, we are proposing a conservation easement on the easterly half of the property, which encompasses the entire floodplain area. I believe it's 3.76 acres, shown in the light green. The darker green area is the 50-foot buffer area to the wetlands, which will remain undisturbed. The yellowish green area are the two minor areas where we are asking for encroachment into the buffer area simply for grading. All the improvements will be outside the buffer area. As part of the stormwater detention system for this unit, similar to the last one, we have an underground detention system which will be located under the common open space area. It will be discharged via a large level spreader and just up gradient of the wetlands and discharged to the floodplain area associated with the Mattabesset River. That detention system has been reviewed by the town engineer. It will mitigate all the post-development flows from the 2-year through the 100-year storm event. And in general, that pretty much, in a nutshell, Michelle, sums up the entire project. I believe we were fortunate in that we've had some delay in presenting this application, which has given us the opportunity to have all the comments from the various departments, and we've been able to incorporate all those comments. As I said, basically all the development, all the houses, all the pavement, stormwater system, everything is outside the 50-foot buffer. It is just these two little areas within the buffer that need to be graded in order to actually contain the proposed common open space area, which is required by P&Z, and serve the dual purpose of having a location for our underground detention. Be happy to answer any specific questions the commission may have or anything I've missed. Failed to add, I should add, there is a stormwater management, maintenance, inspection and maintenance guidelines that are part of the plan. Probably one of the most significant features that I failed to mention is the roof drainage from all these units are discharged to rain gardens. We have 5 very large rain gardens throughout the site, and the roof drainage from each one of these buildings will be discharged to the rain gardens. Some of those rain gardens overflow from those rain gardens. Some of them are connected directly to the stormwater system within the roadway system. The ones that are on the periphery are discharged to the wetland buffer. Those rain garden areas are proposed to be planted with a wet area wildflower mix. Wildflower mix. They are large areas. The areas range from from a little less than 3,000 square feet to a little more than 11,000 square feet. So they're rather large areas. We've used this wildflower technique in other places where we've had large areas like this. So typical rain garden in that it's only a 9 to 12 inch depression. In the late fall, those wildflower areas are mowed. Springtime, if additional mulch is required, they're remulched. They grow back up, and that's a nice kind of, I don't know, woodsy environmental flair to it, rather than a typical garden landscape area that you see in a lot of residential development. But meets all the planning and zoning requirements. We've had this project for quite some time. The submission has been delayed due to the applicant having other projects that he has worked on. But we're quite happy with the way this whole project laid out. I think it's going to be a very nice development, and that's again from a planning standpoint. Not only do they each have their own individual garage and their own assigned parking space, you're gonna have parking spaces in each individual driveway and some additional visitor parking over here, so that we don't have a situation with the potential guests not having any place to park or parking on roads. Again, this area is kind of protected. We put proposing a gazebo in the corner here, and along the perimeter of this common open space area, we have a split rail fence that's at the top of the slope, heading down to the wetlands. The two chartreuse green areas that will require grading, those will be planted with wetland buffer area shrubbery, which is specified on the landscape plan. The remainder of the buffer area will remain wooded, just as it is today.
All the pavement, where's the runoff for all the pavement going?
All the pavement is collected in a drainage system and goes to this detention basin.
All of it.
That's where the level spreader is.
And the level spreader is here. Again, not to reiterate some of the things that you've heard on the last application with regard to how these things work, but yeah, the outlet, both the inlet and the outlet are controlled by two manholes. Both have internal weirs. The first manhole with its internal weir directs the first flush to the isolator row, which is the row that takes any potential contaminants before getting released to the additional rows. The secondary manhole here is the outlet manhole, which again has a weir with an orifice in it, which controls the rate of release, so that the water is released at the same rate post-development conditions as it is in pre-development conditions. The one additional feature, which I didn't hear in the last presentation, is the last catch basin here, prior to its actual discharge to this, is a baffled catch basin, as recommended in the conservation handbook. A 4-foot deep sump. It has a hooded outlet, which prohibits any floatables from getting into the system whatsoever. Again, as I said, there's a maintenance and inspection schedule. Typically on something like a project like this, now that we're in an age where you can do any sanding, there is no maintenance. The The one key thing is, although there's recommended maintenance and what should be checked, that last catch basin, with the way it is designed, you know whether you need maintenance or not, because if the sediment starts to build up in that, it blocks the outlet into the system. So a peak in that tells you whether you've got sediment buildup or not.
And the rain gardens, they're enough to carry all the water from the gutters?
Yeah, the rain gardens are sized to handle the first 1 inch of rainfall. They all have assume here's the bottom and there's the top of the rain garden. They all have a riser pipe that comes like this with a braided top, goes like that, tied back into the storm drainage system. So as far as real maintenance, the key is that grate doesn't get covered over with leaves or litter. And of course, you know that instantly because as soon as you had a good sized rainstorm and it overflowed the banks, you know you're out. But again, in this particular case, if it overflowed the banks, that's good for the road. So,
and it appears that what you're actually going into, what you're asking for is a very small area of disturbance.
Yes.
And it's just for grading.
And it's just for grading. That's it. All the structures and everything are out. The planting detail actually specifies the planting. Well, it specifies the planting throughout, but there's specific buffer area planting, both there and there, for those two graded areas.
Bill, anything? Jim? Guys, anything? Shoot.
My name's Patrick Snow. I own the property to, just right there, the finished report property. My question was, maybe I missed it. Is that a conservation easement in the back? Is that going to be?
Yep.
Okay, because then it'll tie into mine on the other side
exactly.
as well. So.
Exactly. Yep. You just done right there.
Yeah. I want you guys to hurry up and stop looking at that house that's been dilapidated.
Yeah.
They're keeping that house, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. They're going to renovate. Oh, they are going to keep it.
Yeah, they're going to rehab it.
Fix it, though. I assume.
Yeah. Rehab it into 2 units.
Great, but no, I'm in approval. Just want to go quicker rather than.
Does anybody have any else? Anybody? Any audience citizen?
That's my son. So
okay. And who's Dean?
He was just watching mine prior.
Oh, he was. He was there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Any guys? Any other questions?
The silt fence, just protect everything.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, there's extensive erosion control plan. Again, that whole perimeter there. Silt fence, backwood hay bales.
I don't see a need to continue the public hearing. I mean, there's nobody here asking questions.
If your members have any comments or concerns.
But like I said, the encroachment is minuscule
It is.
compared to what the whole project is.
There are no permanent impacts.
Right.
The what regulated or the other.
Right. And it seems like you're gonna take all precautions to make sure everything is
absolutely
still fenced and hay baled and everything else, so. Nobody has any other questions or comments? I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for application 22-04WF.
Motion to close application 22-4WF.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second. I'd like to, a motion to either approve or reject application 22-04WF. Come on, guys, we all want to go home.
Make a motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That includes regular business. Jim, do you have anything? Sullyton Road maybe?
Yes, 711 Southington Road. I've had a number of conversations with them since our last meeting. We received a complaint from one of the property owners regarding discharge of sediment into the stream. weeks ago. I investigated it, and it was determined that the sediment was coming from a well purging that was occurring on the property. They were drilling a geothermal well, and as part of the process, they're flushing, and they didn't control the runoff into the stream. The stream was discolored for a bit. I spoke to the well driller, I spoke to the property owner. They shortly thereafter, following my conversation, installed a line of silt fence along the east side of the stream, containing any other runoff. It was ironic when I got out to the site, the drillers had just finished drilling. Sorry, they should have known better, but
Could there be any implications down the road?
I think it occurred in such a short time frame that the stream just flooded itself.
So it's pretty clear.
It was more than just suspended fine particulates.
And you haven't heard from the?
No, I haven't. I've also heard from the property owner last week, and then yesterday, that they had acquired the plantings that were recommended by the Soil Conservation Service. They were looking for some direction in terms of placement on the site. I recommended that they read through the report once again, and the recommended spacing was indicated, number of clusters throughout the upland review area. I don't know how many plantings they acquired. I had the sense that they acquired more than what was recommended in the report, so I forwarded some comments to them today. We'll just monitor it as time goes on.
Other than this little faux pas with the drawing, they seem to be doing everything right.
Yeah, and they reacted, the next day.
That's what I'm saying.
They've always been responsive. So, I wish everyone would respond as quickly as they have. The only other thing is that actually just about across the street, within the undeveloped portion of Timberland Park, if you go off by the pavilion and the westerly wooded area, several of our grounds department folks are working with the Connecticut Forest and Parks Association to modify a couple of trails out there. Okay. Obviously, they go through some of the wetlands. They're looking at constructing a footpath over one of the streams. They were looking for direction. I told them at this point I didn't see any permit on it. They would advise me when they're performing the work. It's more of a maintenance activity. It's growing out there.
And does the town working with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So just in case anyone gets a phone call about something happening out there, that's what it's all about. Other than that, I probably latter part of the month I'll give our friend Mr. Olson a little jingle on Toby Road to remind him there's some plantings to be placed over there. John's not familiar with this one, but if we have about an hour, I can be pretty sure. But that's really where we're at.
But if you went out there and saw what it's out there now to what it was, you would say there was, what's the problem with it?
So that's all I have to report.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry, with the activity, I missed who made the motion to open the second public hearing. I was going to assume, but I didn't want to, and then a second.
Gary's the only one talking today.
And then a second on, okay.
Bill.
Thanks, sorry about that.
So other than that, our next meeting will be the first Tuesday in June.
Which, right now we don't have anything, right?
At the present time, no, we do not. We may have an application if they make the deadline for some activity down at the old Stantown manufacturing facility, East Berlin, adjacent to that's where.
Can we review that?
Yeah, we just had something recently for environmental cleanup. Yeah. We're looking at constructing some canopies for storage of trailers.
And I see Budney started.
Yeah. I've had a number of conversations with Mr. Diadio on the Berlin Turnpike.
Yeah.
So
Steve, are you still there?
I'm here.
Did you go and do what I asked you to do as far as trying to get on as a full-time member?
Can't say I did. I will take care of that Thursday.
Thank you,
No
because
problem.
I'd rather have you as a full-time member than a sub or alternate.
I appreciate it, thank you.
All right, thank you. If that's all there is, kind of motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. All in favor?
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. I need to talk to you for 1 minute.